I'm here with JJ at Inferno in Norway. We both here as delegates attending the shows, attending the conferences, so there's a lot to talk about. He also has some new music. So first of all, let's get right into it. How's Inferno been to you this year?
Awesome. You know, it's like my 5th time here. And I mean, I always have a blast of, festivals just super organized and the lineups are, top notch. The venue, everything, it's just a great experience. So glad to come back. I've come almost every 2 years now. So was happy to be a part of the conference. Got to speak on a panel. It's really cool. Get treated really nice. I can't complain.
Yeah, I agree with you. This festival is really special. And at this time of the year, what better place to spend Easter than in Norway at Oslo at Inferno?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure my parents aren't proud of that, but, it's for the music. I'm not here for any other reason than that. Yeah.
He's doing it for the love of the game, if you will. There's a lot going on. Before you even came here, you've been busy. There's a Wacken Metal Battle happening. You have a new project with a new album coming out. You're going to be playing some shows. You have some touring happening as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff to digest. Before we talk about the Wacken Metal Battle, we can leave that for the end. Let's talk about your new project. Most people probably know you from Skullfist, but you're a lot more than just the drummer of Skullfist. So can you tell us a little bit more about your new project?
Yeah. So I've got another band called Thunderor, which is myself and Johnny Nesta, who me and Johnny played in Skullfist together for over 10 years. The band actually started in 2020, put out our first record in 2022, so our second album is coming out, I was gonna say next month. It's this month, April 17th, so we were heavy metal, old school heavy metal, like Skullfist kind of stuff with the new wave of traditional heavy metal, that whole niche thing. But this new record is leaning a little more towards hard rock, so some mix of heavy metal and hard rock. So
I discovered the band through that project that you did last year. You did a play. This guy turned his music and the project of the band into an actual play where they got to not only play but actually participate in the actual theatrical piece as well, a full-on musical, I would say. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did that whole idea came about?
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of a new idea that I guess the past couple of years in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to do a musical, and I mean, I don't even really like musicals. I think I realized that as I started getting more into it, and then I started going to other musicals and stuff, and I was like, I think I only really like a specific kind of musical. I like rock operas and rock musicals, so very specific thing. But I had this idea, and then through the Toronto Fringe Festival, we got the opportunity to be a part of the festival and present Thunderor, the musical. So I was like, this is, let's do it, and I had a hard time convincing the band, but, after a bit, and then I had to recruit the actors and come up with the plot and the story, the dialogue, everything. So it was I really threw myself in there, and I'm like, okay, I'm committed, I'm gonna do this. And I think when you have a deadline, I had the deadline of the festival, so it's okay, you have to do it at that point. I think if I hadn't had the Fringe Festival deadline, it would have just been another idea, in the back of your mind, and then it never comes to fruition. But thankfully it did, so we did a 5-show run of that, and the soundtrack to the musical is the new album. So that was my way of okay, we're going to present the album that way, like a live debut, because the songs weren't out yet. But my thought was to have the musical theater crowd discover something new, and then also the metal scene in Toronto discover musicals, experiencing the music in a musical setting.
Try to create a crossover between both.
Yeah.
So the new record that comes out this month, how long have you been working on it?
Years. Too long, right? Everything takes longer. I think we started writing it in 2023. So I was really hoping for a 2025 release, and I was like, oh yeah, we'll be safe. But here we are in 2026. So, but it's okay. Yeah, it's done. I feel very happy with it, and we've got some touring coming up to support it. We're going out with Burning Witches later this month for a run of shows in Canada. And yeah, we've got that. We were supposed to do Europe with Chris Holmes, but he had to bail off the tour, unfortunately, due to some concerns. So I'm hoping that everything's going to be all right with him, and hoping we get to do another run with him in the future.
Yeah, maybe reschedule for the future.
I hope so.
How did the opportunity with Burning Witches come about? Because I was first of all, they haven't played a show in Canada.
Yeah.
This is going to be their first Canadian run, and when I saw that you were part of the support, I was like really impressed. So, did you know anybody in their camp? Like, how did it all come about?
So we played with them before with Skullfist in Germany. This was like quite a while ago, but I guess we know each other from that, and it really I know the agent that's setting up the Canadian dates. So, he reached out to me and he was like, oh, I'm going to do these shows. You want to be a part of it? And so I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. Dungeon Works out of Montreal. So he's setting up the Canadian dates, Nick Guérin. And luckily I was like, okay, I'll help you out. I was like, I'll put on the Toronto show, and I'll do that. So that was like a little bit of weight off his shoulders. And I'm like, oh, I'll help out with backline, stuff like that. And it's just like a team effort, making it happen, and then we get to do the shows. So I think it's going to be cool. I think it's the right audience. I think it's a cool package. So
I actually think it's really good because it is kind of the right audience for you, and for the girls it's great too because you're helping out with a lot of the logistics, so they don't have to worry about bringing a lot of the gear.
Yeah,
I think it's really a win-win situation for everybody involved.
Totally. I think that's the best way to do things. If you can. Structure stuff like that where it's like everyone's doing a little bit, like everyone's contributing to the tour more than just like performing. I think especially on this level, like this kind of like mid-level touring, it really helps.
Do you think that's kind of the plan for the future when it comes for bands who don't want to spend the money on the U.S. visa, who perhaps want to come to North America and get at least a taste of what it is? Coming to Canada, you don't need a visa, so you can much easily get into that market. Maybe pairing up with a Toronto-based or a Montreal-based band to help out with the backline. Do you see a future in that kind of?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's already happening, but I think it could be happening a lot more. I was actually talking to an agent the other day about this, and I think, with everything in the world, I think it's time for Canada to kind of make it known that bands can come tour in Canada and have it be a standalone thing and not have it depend on a U.S. tour to support it, I think it needs to be known that, like, okay, bands can come over here, do like a week, and it'll be worth it, like walk away with some money and stuff like that. So I think I'm gonna look into like bringing in more bands, maybe with Nick, like a co-promoter kind of thing or whatever, but like bringing in more bands and just doing Canada, just doing Canadian shows.
I think the East Coast of Canada, like when you think about Quebec and Ontario, I think there's enough markets in those two cities alone to do maybe a week. Even you could probably push it even to 2 weeks or a week and a half, something like that. Yeah. Like at least 8 or 9 shows. Yeah. And it's a win-win situation for the band that's coming from Europe, and it's a win-win situation for the band that will support them that's already perhaps a Canadian band, or even a US band that can come up and play those shows as well.
Totally. Yeah, and you made a good point about the permits. It's just like, you could just walk into Canada. You don't have to worry about that stuff. I mean, we heard in the panels yesterday the horror stories about like bands having to apply like a year in advance and all
and
this
not
shit.
Getting it and losing their money.
And hiring a lawyer and all that. It's ridiculous, So it's like, hey, just come to Canada, So I think there's so much potential there to grow that market.
Yeah, to like I said, to get your foot in the door if you're a European band, mid-level, mid-market European band who's perhaps not sure, doesn't want to make a huge financial commitment. I think it's a great opportunity. And let's face the facts, if you guys are playing Toronto or Quebec or Montreal, if you have fans in the East Coast of the US, they'll travel up to come and see those shows.
they're big markets. Toronto, Montreal, huge markets, right? Like bands want to play those places, right? So, and yeah, and you can easily structure a string of dates. You know, the drives aren't too far.
No, no, and I see more and more shows in Kitchener, for example.
Yeah.
Cattle Decapitation is playing in Kitchener. Megadeth
awesome.
played in London, Ontario.
Yep.
Like, I mean, there's definitely enough markets to sustain a short tour run, but one that really minimizes the financial risk that the band needs to take. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then perhaps from that point on, then expand. And do something a little bit bigger. I'm really happy to see you participating in these tours because I think it's, like I said, it's a win-win situation for everybody involved. Outside of the shows, are you planning anything else for the album release? Is there anything else you have in the works? Are you doing another play?
Yeah, you know, I do want to do another rendition of the musical and kind of like up my game, like a bigger venue. Like, because I mean, you saw the venue it was at. It was. You know, it was pretty DIY, so it's like, I have that grand image in my head of like, oh, you know, the big theater, you know.
Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah, you know, one of those Mozart places, you know. But I don't know. So, but I think the big thing is just getting some money behind it. So, you know, I got to meet some cool people in the industry when I did the first run. So I think it's teaming up with like a producer partner or maybe getting some funding, you know, behind it or something, and then I could like do it proper. But you know, it's not urgent. I've got the kind of like the blueprint for it. So it's like, and I think I need to improve the storyline. That was the one thing people were commenting. Oh, the story could be better. So I'm like, oh yeah, you know. Like,
there was a few gaps, I gotta say. There was a few gaps in the story. It was entertaining. I had a great time, don't get me wrong. I had a great time. But definitely, if I put my critic hat on, I'm like, wow, that story, there was a few parts that were left up to the imagination.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's a good thing. I mean, I don't know. But I think you definitely have some potential there. And, you know the business really well in terms of the music side of things. And venturing into the theatrical part, it's not that far of a stretch, if you will. You know what I mean?
No, to me, it's like just another branch off the tree. You know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go give this a try. You know, it's like, I think it's all under that umbrella of music and heavy music in Canada, and so it's like, why not? You know, explore it.
And like if he's not busy with all of that, he also has a label. He has an independent label. That's what the panel here at Inferno that JJ participated was about. Are you releasing this record with your label?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, yeah.
Well, you're really not selling your label right now, like, unfortunately.
I mean, yeah, I think, you know, I think this is an old mentality too, but you always want to be on like a big label where it's like, oh, cool, you know, like I'm better than everyone else and like, you know, I made it or whatever. But I think those days are gone, right? So, and, but even as an artist, it's really hard to let go of that. And I think even now I still struggle with it. But this time was a little easier because a lot of people just weren't interested in the record. So it just kind of made my decision like easier because I didn't have to weigh any offers like the first record. I was like, you know, do I do it myself or do I go with this other label that's pretty good, but they're not going to put their heart into it, you know? So this time was easy. It was like, all right, there isn't really any interest, you know, none worth like considering anyway. So it's like, okay, let's just do it myself, you know, and like it's more of an investment up front. But in the end, you know, you have to believe that it will be a success. So you're just helping yourself out down the road because then there'll be a lot more money for you, you know, if it is a success.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What you said is really interesting in terms of the mindset of the artist, still thinking like the big record deal or the big label. But I think I see that from the media side, where people still see being on a Decibel magazine. Nothing against Decibel magazine or Metal Hammer or any of those magazines. But let's face the facts: most people now discover music through other means. They're not really discovering music through a magazine. So I think there's a mindset
for sure,
that with the artist that it's still kind of connected with the old way of doing things, and more you see newer bands moving away from it a lot more. Maybe it's a lot easier when you're new into the business versus when you've been around already for a long time.
Yeah, no, like I don't know what the equivalent is. You know, everyone wants to see themselves on a cover of a magazine, but like, if nobody reads the magazine,
What's the
it
point?
doesn't have the same weight that it did in the 80s or 90s or whatever, right? So, yeah, I think, you know, I mean, it's going in that direction. Artists, everything, they're just doing everything more independently, and I think that is the way. It's the only sustainable way, you know. But it's more work, but I think it's if you
More
make it, you
rewarding.
make it, right? And
Yeah.
then you just there's more, you know, gold at the end of the rainbow or whatever, you know.
To finish off, let's talk a little bit about the Vakken Metal Battle because you know he's the organizer for the Vakken Metal Battle in Canada, which is quite a daunting task considering how big the country is. And also, we both going to be judges at the Vakken Metal Battle in Iceland.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the Canadian one. What do you have in store for us? And what can fans expect if they want to come and attend some of the shows?
Yeah, so we're getting towards the end of the shows, you know, because we try and wrap things up as soon as we can, really, because to give time for the winning band to, you know, plan their way to get to Vakken. But basically, I think now at this point, we just confirmed the Quebec finalist. I think yesterday they had their final there. So, and we've got all the other provinces are already announced their finals. They already did all their rounds. So this year, the national finals in Montreal at Piranha Bar on May 9th. So we're going to have one band representing Alberta, one BC finalist, one from Quebec, and one from Ontario. Sorry, the Ontario one still needs to be determined. So that's the last one. We've got the Ontario final on April 18th, which is also part of this official Vakken warm-up party, this new idea they're doing to commemorate their 35 years as a festival. So they're doing 35 of these shows in 35 different countries, all on this day, on April 18th. And it happens to be our Ontario final also. So the winner there will go to Montreal. In Montreal, that's where the winner gets decided. Whoever wins in Montreal, that's it. You go to Vakken Open Air. So.
For those that are not aware, like if you win, let's say you win and you get to represent Canada, what does the band have to put forward and what is provided to the band?
Yeah, so you still have a long journey ahead for sure, especially with today's flight prices. I'm praying that, you know, those come down because it's just going to feel terrible for the band. But we used to give a lot more money to the winners, but nowadays we give $1,000 to the winner to help out with costs. The rest, they need to make their way there by themselves. When they get to the festival, they get the back line and accommodations there and food and drink. So that's great. You know, it's just a matter of getting there. But I'm trying to help out with that even more. So I'm starting this year. I'm already looking into like other ways that we can fund the winning band to get there. You know, at least cover a little bit more of their expenses. It's just a way of like pitching it to like the government agencies. You know, that do this stuff to be like, okay, like this is a real opportunity. You know, and I think you just have to show them that so that they can be like, okay, you know, we're exporting Canadian talent to hopefully become
international audience.
Yeah, and then, you know, get opportunities and you know, there's lots of success stories with the metal battle already. You know, as you know, so who knows, right? I think it's definitely something that it aligns with like what the government wants to be funding, but it's just a matter of like proving that to them. So.
Yeah, I think that's great because the way the prices of flights are going these days, it's incredibly expensive to get there. I think the takeaway from that is if you're going to put a band together to compete at the Vakken Metal Battle, make it a duo. then that way you curb your traveling costs a lot. Now, if you have a symphonic metal band and there's like 12 people on the band, then you're screwed. Yeah. That's the message. Make it a duo, you're totally fine. A trio at the very best, anything more than that, and it's going to cost you a fortune. Well, JJ, thank you very much for your time today, man. I really appreciate talking to you and
Dude,
hanging out with you
thanks a
throughout
lot.
the festival. It's been an absolute blast.
Yep.
And guys, I'm going to have in the description of the video all the links for the Vakken Metal Battle in Canada that's happening, his album that's coming out, YouTube channels, all of that kind of stuff, all of that good shit. Go follow this guy, support. And if you're in Toronto, come to the Vakken Metal Battle finals in Toronto. It's going to be great. I know there's some shows happening that weekend, but it's really important. I have to stress this. It's really important to support the local scene. If you don't, it's going to be really hard to have external bands coming into your town, because then there's nobody to even go to those shows. So you kind of have to start from within in order to really help build everything else around it. It's all about creating an ecosystem, as far as I'm concerned. So check out in the comment section, in the description of the video. Come to the shows, support this dude, and I'll see you all at the next one.